Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with the painting of our character, and I'm going to show you the result after we did the new bakes for the fixings that we did in the last video. So as you can see here, the painting that we have is still there. The elements are really nicely baked. You can see the little buckle there. It's pretty much painted, but from a distance it will be looking just fine. So with this, we now don't have any of the issues that we have. We might have a couple of areas, for instance here, where the new lines might interfere a little bit with the thing that we're going for. So in this case, it might be a good idea to go here into the cloth element, go into a paint layer, for instance. So let me add here, let me add a black mask. No, we should have the black mask already. Oh, it's this thing, sorry. Let's have a paint layer here. And I'm just going to paint out a little bit of this line right there, so we can see a little bit more of the razor. There's going to be a little bit of overlap there, but so minimal that it's really not worth worrying about. And on this side, I also saw a little bit of overlap there. Yeah, so let's get rid of that. Just a little bit. If we later see that we actually need it, we'll just go back. Now here for the brown cloth, let's just get rid of all of this area. For some reason, maybe it changed a little bit in the projections, and that it's getting inherited there, so let's get rid of it. And there we go. So that's the cloth. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new folder for the cape. I think the next thing will be the cape. And now the cape is interesting. For some reason I have it as two separate elements when it should be the same one, right? The cape might probably be leather instead of cloth. I think it will be some sort of I think it will be leather. It looks way thicker, so that's why I'm thinking about leather. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a new fill layer here. Let's grab a color that's very easy to find, like red. Control G, and let's call this cape. Cape, there we go. I'm gonna add a black mask. I'm gonna add a color selection, and I'm gonna select yellow. You can see that everything yellow gets selected. That's fine. We're gonna do a quick fix in just a second. I'm gonna now add a paint layer, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint out anything that's not the cape. And it should be fairly easy. We can even do it here on the UV map. Should be a little bit faster as well. Now, see what's happening there? What's happening is it's actually touching certain areas because I'm using something called the wrap brush, which wraps around the surface of the object. In this case, I don't think that I need to grab this element, so I'm going to go here into the UV selection, and I'm going to just erase all of this. See how it doesn't interfere with any other elements? So it allows me to really, really quickly isolate all of these elements right here, without having to worry about erasing any of the cape objects, because it's actually obeying the UV map. Now I see a little bit of missing points here and there, so I'm just gonna correct them real quick. All of this border, I'll probably want to correct that as well, because it's part of the element. Maybe not all of it, because there's a little bit of cloth, so I'm gonna wait until the other areas are ready. Let me check if the color was... Oh, we don't want the color right now, right? Because this is a cape, so let's get rid of the color. Right there. If we miss a spot, that's fine. We can fix it later on. Careful here. We do need to add those little elements. Even though the normal map is super destroyed there, we do need to consider that. And now, again, since we're already on the UV section, we can very, very easily paint all of this. We can even go a little bit on top of the belts. That's fine, because since the belts are on top, they're going to be replaced by whatever texture we add on top. So let me just finish painting here. Same thing there, like I'm not too worried about that. It's just like initial blocking. It's very similar to what I talk about when we're modeling. Like, try to go broad first and then correct everything later on. Great, so this is the final cape painted. As you can see, we also missed this cape on the downs or the other side here, but since this is a different material right here, oh, it's actually not perfect. So very quickly, I'm just gonna go here And instead of doing the paint by hand, I'm going to switch into my polygon fill, and I'm going to select object and just select this whole object, and there we go. That's very, very easy, and that pretty much makes sure that everything in this element is properly set up. Now, here's the deal. We need to define what kind of material this thing is gonna be, and I'm probably gonna go for this fabric rough to begin with. So I'm just gonna drop this into this element here, or into the what's it called? Into the folder here. I need to get rid of the red color. We don't need it anymore. It was just a placeholder to know what parts were being placed. However, if you remember, like, it can go either way. It could be some sort of like heavy canvas or heavy cloth, or it could be some sort of light leather, I think. And I'm not really sure what I want this to be. I think I'm gonna go for the cloth because we're gonna have a lot of leather, and if we have leather on top of leather on top of leather, it could become very complicated to work with. So I'm gonna grab this thing right here, the rough, and I'm just gonna go here into the scale again, move the scale up to, let's say, 10, which was the same amount that we had for the other one. And yeah, so having a little bit of a different texture for each one should also yield good results. Let's change to 4K to see the difference here. So see, this is going to be really thin, and this is going to be slightly bigger. Or it should have a slightly bigger, what's it called? Height. Now, the height I do think is slightly too much. So I'm going to go into technical parameters here on the material, and I'm going to move the height range to like 0.01. And that should minimize the amount of height there. Now we need to clean the mask a little bit. You can see that we went a little bit over the edge right there. So I'm gonna very carefully get rid of that thing right there. There we go. I'm not worried about the buttons. I'm not worried about the belts, because those guys are on top and it's very easy to paint on top of that element. Let's finish that thing right there. Make sure that we don't have any hole or anything. Let's erase all of this area right here. This belt I am worried about because I'm on top of those belts. So as long as the things are on top, that's fine. That's why I always paint my textures from bottom to the top. There we go. Cool. Now you can see that we have a little bit of overlap there. I think I'm gonna erase this like this, just to make sure that the belt looks nicer, because that overlap does look slightly weird. Now these areas right here are gonna be quite interesting. This is where we're gonna start seeing a couple of edge issues and stuff. And just make sure that you paint it in such a way that it makes sense. So for instance, there, it doesn't make sense to have any sort of color there, so I'm gonna paint that out. Actually, I'm gonna leave it, because I think a little bit of dirt later on will fix it. Now I'm gonna go back here into the cloth. Let's go to the brown cloth here, and I do want to paint this thing there. There we go. It looks nicer. And yeah, that's it. So now what we need to do is we need to select the proper color for the cape, which we already have here on the concept. It's actually very similar, if not the same, as the one we have for the shirt. But even if we get like a slight variation, like even slightly either lighter or yeah, I think I want to have the same one. So let's just gonna sample the color directly from there. No, I think I do want to have it slightly more saturated, just a tad bit, not much. There we go, something like that. So very, very minimal change, but that's gonna give us a nice little break from the other one. And now we need the lighter color that we have here on the border, and for that we're just gonna use a fill layer. Let's call this darker cloth, nothing but color, and we select the color here, which is this beige kind of shade right about there. Black mask, and now we just paint the mask. Now the cool thing about this, as you can see, is that we are keeping the normal map from the, or the what's it called? The height map, the details from the other one very, very nicely. I'm gonna use my hard brush here. And we don't have to worry about painting any other thing that is not part of the cape, because we're already inside the group that only focuses on the cape. Now the cape goes all the way to this little line right there. We need to be very careful with this line because we want to make sure it looks nice and crisp. So at that, what I did there is I used my shift key to draw a straight line and paint just that specific area. So you can go like here and then like do one click, shift, and then all the way to the top. See that? And that way I can follow the line very, very cleanly. Oh, let's do it. There we go. Then we just finish there. I want to keep the line clean in this case. Like I want to make sure it's on the side of the clean element, because later on we're gonna add a little bit of dirt or a little bit of like ambient occlusion to make sure that that works. This shortcuts that I'm using is shift and right click to move the light around. It's very important because you need to have the best possible lighting scenario when doing the texture so that you get the nicest result possible. Oh. There we go. All the way here on the top, even though a lot of that stuff is going to be covered by the metal shoulder pad that we have. There we go. Now this is the most tedious part of the texturing process because there's a lot of masking and blocking that we have to do. Once we have all of this ready, everything should move slightly faster. We're gonna go into nicer and nicer techniques. Now here for the cape, should be fairly simple to just try and capture everything with a straight line. Again, broad strokes first and then just go back inside, like go back here and fix it. Like that. On the back, we're just missing this lines right here. So paint all of this. I'm not totally in love with the texture here for the what's it called, for the cape. So we might go with the leather, but a very dry sort of leather. Either that, or I'm just gonna reduce the amount of height map because I want this to be slightly softer. I think it's way too rough. There we go. That, and we can go a little bit more organic here because this is a very flowy cape, so having that little bit of organicness to it will make it look nicer. There we go. Look at that, starting to take form, which is really, really good. Just make sure that we again give it a little bit of that organicness here on the top side. There we go. We're missing, because I don't want everything to look super sharp. It tends to look fake. So by doing this sort of cover up, everything should look slightly nicer. Perfect. So that's the cape. Now let's do the change that I was talking about. I think this is slightly too dark, so I'm gonna lower the intensity a little bit, like at 70. And I'm gonna go to my fabric rough. I'm gonna, instead of going into the height range, I'm gonna go directly into the height layer of this specific element, and I'm gonna lower the height intensity of this thing. Now, the issue here is that if I lower this layer intensity, we're gonna start seeing this one over here, the back one. So if we get rid of this completely, oh, okay, so this is not height, this is normal map then. Okay. Yeah, see, it's the normal map intensity. So let's lower the intensity of the normal map, so it's not as intense. So we do have a nice little denim pattern, but it's not super intense. Now here we have an issue. This cape right here and this one right here are actually inheriting both normal maps. They're inheriting the normal map from this thing right here and the normal map from the cloth. Now there's two options here. We either change the way this are done, or the one that I think is a little bit more straightforward, we go back here into the cloth and we mask out this element right here. So we go into the paint layer and we paint out the capes. We can go into F3 and just paint all of this out. There we go. Oh well, make sure that we have the, what's it called, the option here from tangent wrap to UV, and that way we eliminate the normal map from the cape here, and we need to do the same for this thing right here. There we go. So now, if my calculations are correct, we should only be seeing the pattern from this element right there. See? Perfect. So this is it for this video, guys. In the next one, we're gonna start working with the leather blocking for the whole character. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next video. Bye bye.